This is the new Sony 24-50mm f2.8G. This lens is coming out later this year, and Sony sent it out for me to test for about a week or two. And since I don't have much time with it, I need to get a lot of sample photos so I can really determine how good this lens is. So today we're gonna be walking around the University of Tampa campus as well as downtown Tampa to get some sample photos and videos to see just what this lens can do. This is kind of random, but I'm making a YouTube video just taking photos of people like just kind of throughout the day. Yeah. Would it be cool if I take some photos of you? I'll send it to you on IG. Cool, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, bro. Three, two, one. Okay, and then I'll take it on your phone too. I can send you the photo later.
Yeah, give me your Instagram.
Yeah.
So mine is, let me.
Yeah, and I can type it in you. Eduardo, nice to meet you. David.
David.
What's your name?
This is Liam.
Liam, nice to meet you, Liam. Oh,
yeah.
There it is. This is probably super random. I'm just going around kind of getting photos of strangers, kind of like hanging out, chilling through the day. Cute, love that. And 3, 2, 3, 2, and 3, 2, 1. Love it. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So just hang out, chilling, just talking to each other, looking out in the water. No, you look great. Can I get a photo of you both of you just smiling at the camera for this next one? And 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Oh, what's your Instagram? And then I can, either one of yours. Hi, buddy. I can send it to you guys once I've edited it. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna just walk around and get candids of you guys. So, and hold on one second. Let me get my focus. Sorry. Okay, and 3, 2. It's so cute. I love that. First of all, I recommend everyone to go on some photo walks. Like, I've walked around the University of Tampa before, but I never really explored it like I did for this video. And for my up-and-coming photographers out there, it's not only a great way to practice a variety of different shots and photography, but it's also a great way to network and meet people, and honestly, bring some business cards with you because you might end up with some future clients. I ended up sending everyone their photos, and their responses really just made my day. All right, let's talk about this new lens. This is an interesting focal length from Sony because if you're like me, the first thought you might have is, doesn't Sony already have a 24-70mm? Yes, they do. This is the original 24-70 G Master, and here's the thing. This is lighter than this lens, this is cheaper than this lens, and weirdly enough, this is a sharper lens than the original G Master, which we'll definitely get to. While it does sacrifice some versatility by losing that extra reach, it does still cover what is, in my opinion, the most important focal lengths of 24mm through 50mm. I mean, my favorite two lenses are the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master and the 50mm f1.4 G Master, but if you're the type that likes to just walk around with just a single lens on, then the 24-50 f2.8G is kind of the move. I ended up pairing it with my Sony a7C Mark II, and it was the best walk-around setup I've used apart from just walking around with a single prime lens. Okay, let's start with the image quality. This is a really sharp lens. I know I might say that a lot, but it's true. Every single photo I've gotten from this lens hasn't disappointed. Centers are tack sharp, corners are tack sharp, the contrast and color rendition is spot on with vibrancy and punchiness. The lens is basically what I expect out of a G Master lens in a G series body. If we dive into some of the test charts at both the wide end at 24mm and at the tight end at 50mm, we're getting super sharp resolution from corner to corner and through the full aperture range from f2.8 to f22. Also, if we zoom out, there is basically zero vignetting throughout the entire aperture range, which is a really nice feature. And earlier, I said that this lens is sharper than the original 24-70mm f2.8 G Master, and I meant it. On my call with Sony, they showed me their internal MTF chart showing that this 24-50 is sharper than the 24-70 f2.8 G Master, the original one, corner to corner at every focal length. If we look at photo comparisons between the two lenses, I mean, at the very least, you might as well say they performed identically. It's pretty incredible. Something we've come to expect from Sony G and GM series lenses is that Sony is always striving to create the cleanest looking image possible with their lenses. That stays true with this lens's ability to control lens flares, resulting in minimal flaring and really well suppressed ghosting. And on a note of clean images, I'm really surprised by how well this lens does in terms of suppressing chromatic aberration. If you watched my last lens review, my two favorite ways of harshly testing this is to film thin branches against a bright sun and to photograph text printed on white paper. And in this case, you'll see that there's basically no chromatic aberration. If you pixel peek really far, you'll see hints of it, but from a realistic viewing distance, there's no need for any correction in post. Now, this is something interesting that I did notice, and maybe I just never noticed before with Sony lenses. At the 24mm end, there is actually significant amount of barrel distortion, which I would normally call out as pretty bad, but the reason why I didn't notice at first was because this isn't what you see on the back of the screen. That's because when you shoot videos and shoot JPEG photos, newer Sony cameras have perspective correction built into the camera to straighten all of these distortions out. The only reason I noticed this time is because this lens isn't even out yet, so Lightroom didn't have a lens profile to correct this in my raw photos. So you'll get straight lines in your videos, in your JPEGs, and you'll be able to use lens profiles once they're available to automatically adjust your raw photos. So guess it's not a problem? Do with that as you will. Now, what separates a good photo lens from a good video lens from an optical perspective is really just two things: autofocus and focus breathing. Audio sync. As a first-party lens manufacturer, Sony has absolutely knocked it out of the park. The autofocus is not only lightning fast when it comes to picking up a subject, but it also continues to track it at up to 120 frames per second with a camera like the Sony A9 III, which I don't have because money. But what I can show you is how the autofocus keeps up with 4K 120 frames per second on the ZV-E1. And now let's compare that to the autofocus performance of a popular third-party lens, the Tamron 20-40 f2.8. Lens change. If you compare the two results side by side, you'll see that while the Tamron 20-40 does a really great job tracking, the 24-50 by Sony is just locked in the entire time. As for focus breathing, yes, this lens has focus breathing, but honestly, it's pretty tame. It's nothing crazy, and at short focus racks, it doesn't really breathe at all. This lens is built the same as every other new G series lens, which is to say, just about perfect. I love myself a premium feeling lens with high quality materials, and as always, Sony delivers. It's basically the build quality of a first gen G Master lens, but sold as a more affordable G series option. It weighs 440 grams and is compact, pairing perfectly with both Sony's full-size mirrorless cameras like the a7S III and their compact mirrorless cameras like the a7C Mark II. When I said earlier about it weighing less than the 24-70 f2.8 Mark I, I meant it. This lens literally weighs half of what that lens weighs. The optics of this lens are also solid. It's built with 16 optical elements in 13 groups, with 4 spherical elements, 2 extra low dispersion elements, and fluorine front element coating. Long story short, this optical construction is the reason why the lens performs so well against things like chromatic aberration and lens flares. On top of that, it has an 11 blade aperture, which doesn't always mean smoother bokeh, but in this case, it definitely results in beautiful looking bokeh. And if we look at the lens body itself, we see a lot of familiar sights. We've got a smooth focus ring, zoom ring, and an aperture ring, your typical autofocus manual focus switch, a custom function button, and of course an aperture declick switch. If you're interested in checking out this lens, Sony hasn't finalized a pricing just yet, but they said that it's going to be priced somewhere between $1,099 to $1,299, and it's going to be set to be available for purchase in May of this year. And I have to say, if this lens is priced closer to that $1,100 price point, it's gonna make this an insane release. If you're looking at a standard zoom lens like the 24-70 and you were looking to buy the Mark II of the G Master, that's gonna run you $2,300. And if you wanted to save a little bit of money and get the original Mark I version of that lens, it's still gonna cost you like $1,700 if you buy it new. So if you're looking for the versatility of a standard zoom lens and you don't need that extra reach between 50 and 70 millimeters in your focal length, and you want something that's light to carry around, this is definitely a lens you should consider. Oh, and here's a fun little tidbit. While I was on the call with Sony with other creators, somebody asked a question that honestly, probably everybody's thought of this question before at least once. What is the difference between the Sony G series lenses and the G Master series of lenses? And this isn't like an official statement from Sony, but basically it boils down to this. The G Master line is basically the highest end tech that Sony has produced through research and development. Things like better glass, the latest autofocus technology, and optically perfect lenses, that's gonna go into the G Master line, right? It's targeted for the professionals who just need the best of the best that the market currently has to offer. Now, the G series lenses still aims to bring the consumer the best possible lens there is, but with it being focused towards a wider audience and at a more accessible price point. So trying to cram as much of the Sony goodies into a lens, but keeping the cost down, which to me kind of explains why for this lens at that 24mm end, there's that whole barrel distortion thing happening, and they're just using, you know, software to correct it as opposed to just creating a lens with less distortion. I don't know, works for me. Let me know in the comment section down below, would you rather have the new 24-50 f2.8 G series lens or the 24-70 f2.8 original Mark I G Master lens, and why? That's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Peace.